Okay, so you're in for my webinar number 9. We're going to have a look here at dimensioning a drawing in AutoCAD. Okay, I'm going to be running AutoCAD 2022. So I'll run through a little PowerPoint first of all, this one on the screen here. I'll just run through that quickly and briefly, let you know a bit about me. And then we'll jump into AutoCAD here. Okay, so yes, dimensioning, have a look at how to work with dimensions in a drawing file. It can cause problems. People struggle to get the text height right and get the arrowheads to display and one thing, a bit of a chew on sometimes to get it right. And people have weird and wonderful ways of fixing it all, but hopefully after this you'll be a bit clearer how dimensions work. And maybe change your method of working with dimensions as well. Maybe change your method of working after showing you this. So yeah, a bit about me first of all. Come on, there we go. That's me. So I've been with Greytech since 1989. Can you believe? Blimey, that really does make me feel old. So that's about 32 years. I've been using AutoCAD now for about 35 years. But even so, I'm still learning. There's still a new version out every year, so I've got to keep it up to date with the new versions. So in my spare time, I like my motorbikes. So the bigger and the faster, the better. That's mainly motorbikes. I do a bit of paragliding as well. I've not done any for a while. So yeah, basically trying to kill myself on motorbikes or paragliding. Or maybe stung to death with bees. I'm a beekeeper as well. I've got 10 hives in the garden at the moment. The neighbours love me. Well, actually, to be fair, the neighbours are well away from me. I went on delivering. Every year they know they're going to get a Christmas card and a jar of honey. So yeah. Now my role with the company now primarily is training and support. So if I'm not training or delivering webinars, then I'm on support calls. So if people have got problems with the drawing file, then they email me the drawing file, I can fix it for them and email it back to them. It works really well. And I don't know whether you guys have, but you may well already have a support contract in place. I don't know, but if you don't, just speak to one of our guys, and they'll sort it out if you haven't for a support place. Now, the product I support and train is primarily AutoCAD and Revit. But I mean, at the moment, I'm just flat out. Well, I'm just flat out busy training. I've got a training course tomorrow. I don't think I'm training on Thursday this week. I think on support this week, but tomorrow, Wednesday, I'm training. And then when we come back, I'm straight into training again when we come back. But yeah, I'm just blowing my own trumpet here. The feedback I get from the webinars and from the training, things like useful tips and tricks. The most useful tip ever had from any CAD webinar. Blimey, how about that? It cost me a fortune. This feedback, cost me a fortune. I'll have to see if I can claim back on expenses. What do you think, Claire? Can I get back on expenses? Yeah, bribery. Very good webinar with practical tips. Many thanks for great content. My ability to make what might be considered by some a boring subject. Yeah, in my training courses, we cover all sorts: motorbikes, paragliding, beekeeping, and occasionally a bit of CAD as well. Enjoyed the course, imparted some real-world information. Yes, I like to make my webinars and the training sessions relevant to your work, because it's okay going off to college and everything else, but they're sometimes out of touch with the real world. And because I'm on support calls, I know what sort of problems you guys are going to be having. And I try to make my webinars relevant to the type of work that you do. Then all this high flying, all singing, all dancing stuff. You want to know how to resolve grassroots issues and how to progress your knowledge from the grassroots and get more benefit from the product and basically make your life easier. And that's what we all want. We all want an easy life, don't we? So, and that's a training I did last week from Sophie. Look at that. Steve was a great trainer. I gave her an apple on that one. Very patient, and yeah. So I get good feedback. There we go. So, Greytech, we're growing. Even through all this carry on and malarkey, and don't even get me started on that. These last 2 years, we've been growing through all of that. And I've been continuing to train online, of course, just like we are here now. It's just, if you can, it works really well actually. And I get good feedback from my online courses as well as I do from my your classroom courses, but on-site courses, or I'll come into your offices and I'll set up CAD standards. Quite often people are struggling to work because you've had a drawing from somebody else and it's not the same standard as your office. But I'll come in and I'll set up drawing templates for you. I can set up symbols libraries for you, CAD standards, text styles, dimension styles, multi-leader styles, plot styles, all that lot. It's a service we offer. Come in and set them up. And it makes your life easier then. It makes your life easier if you're working in CAD. Great as a company, over 30 years old as a company, head office in Brive in France. We're in more countries now. My slides are out of date. We're more than 11 countries and more than 48 offices now. Okay, and we're growing and growing. Even all these last few years been growing as well. I don't know what the revenues are projected for the next financial year. I don't know. But over 600 staff now. There's more staff being taken on in other offices. Plus, we've bought other companies as well, other CAD dealers. So we're expanding and rolling out our business model, because our business model works, both helping you guys and growing as a business. So we're over 600 staff now, I believe. We've got an R&D department out in Romania, and we write software as a company. We write software to add in to AutoCAD, and into Revit, what we call power packs, and we get real good feedback from those, from the power packs. And if you want to know about those, get in touch with the sales guy. And basically, it automates a lot of things in the product. Basically, automates routines and things, so it makes your life easier again when you're working, and quicker and faster in there. We have a support system in place, and as you can see, 98% of our feedback on the support is excellent or good. And look at that, 50,000 support cases a year. I mean, as I say, if I'm not on training, I'm on support cases. And look at that, 3,500 training courses delivered per year. I mean, the numbers just astound me, really. Obviously, I don't get to see the full picture. I just crack on with my work. So yeah, why use us then? Well, we've got the people to our sales guys. They're up to speed on all the different products that Autodesk do. Plus, they know our power packs inside out. So if you're struggling with Revit to do a particular routine or whatever, and then we've got direct access to the programmers. So if you want to see a feature in the power packs, just let us know, and we can push the programmers to go, get it programmed. And yeah, let the end user develop the software, because then it's going to get the features in it that you need. Simulate designs and real world market leaders and technology. Yeah, okay. All the way through to the finished product. Yeah, site delivery. So yes, we can timeline the projects all from the design end all the way through the delivery. Manage all of your company work in progress data. Yeah, okay, yeah, and it goes on. Yeah. So let's get into it. Dimensioning. I don't know what you guys do at the moment for your dimensioning, but some people dimension with paper space, some people dimension with model space, and some people make it annotative. Blimey, that's a big word, annotative. How does that work? Well, I'll show you. I'll show you it works. So what are the options? Well, there are the options there. So I'll have a look at creating some dimension styles, and also transferring a style from drawing to drawing as well. From drawing to drawing. Because it's okay, set up a dimension style in one drawing, but then you open another drawing, it might not have your dimension style in it. Now, if you're working with drawing templates, starting new drawings, brilliant. That's great. But what if you receive somebody else's drawing from down the road? Joe Blog Architect on the road, he sends your drawing file down. It won't have your dimension style in, will it? So in that case, you need to transfer the style from drawing to drawing. It's dead easy, dead quick. You don't go through rejigging the dimension style from scratch again. Yeah, that's just crazy. So yeah, set up dimension styles, dimension model space, paper space, annotatively. We'll look at if you're doing some engineering drawings, you might want to put tolerance dimensions on there, with your plus and minus a few thou, or fraction of a millimeter or whatever. Dimensioning enhancement tool. How do you tidy dimensions up on a drawing? And hopefully you're all following BS 308 drawing standards for your dimensioning. I have to look it up. BS 308 drawing standards. Have a look at that. And then editing dimensions. You might want to tweak a dimension to put in dimension says and then put in overall or millimeters or max or min or whatever as a suffix or a prefix in your dimensions. And then something that people don't really know about in AutoCAD. Okay, it doesn't get used much, more from the engineering guys. That's geometrical tolerancing. How does that work? How do you set it up? Now, I'm a bit rusty on that. My days of geometrical tolerancing, going back to my college days in the dim and distant past. So that's things like setting up a control frame and putting into that control frame things like cylindricity, concentricity, parallelism, and angularity between a datum face and a sloping face and all that. Some big words in there, but I'll show you it. So let's have a look then. Now, if you have any questions, all this is getting recorded. Yes, all this is getting recorded, and I guess put them onto our website so you can go back and go through it in your own time at your own pace. But if you have any questions about this, I haven't got much time to get all this banged in. Claire will just cut me off, won't you, Claire? So if I go over time, so I need to get it all crammed in. But I'll put my email address at the very end, so that if you have any questions about it, just drop me an email and I can reply back to your email. I can give it a considered reply without rushing through it. So let's close this. Come on, close this. How do I get? Come on. So there you go. Yes, I'll put my email address in afterwards. There we go. Close that. Close that. Close that. Close that. And then, as if by magic, I'm in AutoCAD. Come on. Why is it not showing? How is it not showing? Oh, was that not showing up on the screen? Damn it. Right. I must have to redo that. Right, okay, so it's showing my screen. I couldn't see. There's nothing in the chat box there. Right. Okay. Right, so we're in AutoCAD here. Thankfully, I spotted that before I actually started anything. So that was just a preamble through my PowerPoint there. Right, okay, so we're in AutoCAD. You can see my screen there. Yeah, okay. I don't know. I don't do enough webinars, that's the trouble. Do all my checks. I am recording, yes. Okay, so we're in AutoCAD. You can see here, in a drawing file, we have some dimensions. Okay, now you can see in this particular drawing file, on the drawing, we have got 2 dimension styles. 1 dimension style here showing just the numbers, yeah, and another dimension style showing the metric and imperial dimensions in there. So you didn't work for the states, you can put in alternatives. So 2 different dimension styles in there. They've got tick marks in here. Look, you can put arrow heads on there as well, if need be. So that's also set up in the dimension style. So question is, how do you set up a dimension style? Well, it's in Dimension Style Manager. Now, there are several places you get into it, into the Dimension Style Manager. I've gone to the Annotate panel on the ribbon, Annotate tab on the ribbon, and there's the Dimensions panel. There's the Dimensions panel. And in the corner there, look, that's where you get into the Dimension Style Manager. Okay, into the Dimension Style Manager. And in here, look, I've got too many dimension styles in this one. I was messing about, just tweaking them and adding some extra ones in. So there's the Dimension Style Manager, and it gives the dimension style a name. Now, historically, people have created dimension styles for different scales of viewports. You can see here some historic dimension styles in here. Dimension style for a 1 to 50 viewport, dimension style for a 1 to 200 viewport, a dimension style for a 1 to 100 viewport. Now, you get around all of that. You get around all that by making the dimension styles either annotative, I'll show you that in a moment, or by making the dimension style in paper space. But let me just show you how to set these up in the first place. Right, I'm going to take an existing one, and I'm going to say make a new dimension style on the side there. So essentially it copies it. It copies it. Okay. And you can give it a name in there. Test. Just give it a name called test. And as it says below there, it says start with. Now I can tick the box here to make it annotative or not. I'm not going to make this one annotative to start with. I'm just going to say continue on that. And it goes into the actual setup of that dimension style called test. Okay. And I've got several tabs in here. I'll start off in here on this one. Now, the trick with dimensions is this. Wherever you see a numerical value in these boxes, such as baseline spacing, extend beyond dim lines, offset from dim line, that should be what you want to see on the printed sheet. So simple as that. It's what you want to see on the printed sheet. Okay, so baseline spacing. This is when you're doing a dimension back to baseline. The dimensions are stacking up line after line after line. So that baseline spacing wants to be the height of the text that you use plus a bit more. So if the text is 3 mil, you're going to do a baseline spacing of 4 or 5 mil. So I'll put 5 in there for the baseline spacing. Okay. Extend beyond dim lines. That is the dimension lines are the lines that are extending away from the object, and it's from your arrowhead up over. So 1.25 mil. Yeah, I'll pop a couple of mil in there, look. Offset from origin. That's the gap between the object you're dimensioning and the dimension line itself, right in that corner there. Again, I'm going to put that in as 1 mil. So wherever you see numerical values, you're typing in what you want to see on the printed sheet, irrespective of whether your viewport is 1 to 50, 1 to 5, or 1 to 500. You are putting in those boxes what you want to see on the printed sheet. Okay. What I don't like to see is when I come onto this tab here and I see arrowheads, 300 mil, massive arrowheads. That's the wrong way to do it. The wrong way to do it. So here, I'm going to change to arrowheads. There's the list of arrowhead types. You can have data markers, dots. I'm going to go for a closed fill arrowhead look for for your linear dimensions, and also for leaders as well. You can change that to closed filled arrowheads. Arrow size 3 mil. Whether it's a site plan you're dimensioning or it's a mechanical component of a few centimeters across, that is the size you want to print out at, 3 mil. Okay. Nothing else much to change in there. Center marks for dimensions, for arcs and centers, 3 mil again. Text. This is another favorite one. All too often I see a text height in there of 50 or 150 or 300 or whatever. No, you need to be putting in there the height you want to see on the printed sheet. So again, I leave it on 3 millimeters there. That's fine, 3 mil. And you can set your text style here as well. So it's a text style for the dimensions. Text, and I would create a text style called dim text or something like that. Make a text style for the object that you're you're using it for. So dim text, a text style called notes, a text style called title block, and so on. I did a webinar this morning on text annotations. If you want to go and change the text style to tweak it slightly, then there's a button there to nip out the back door, and it goes into text style manager. There it is, look, it goes into text style manager. So you can nip out the back door and tweak your text style if you want. Okay, so close that. So I'm back in the dimension style manager. You can change the text color. So text height there, text placement, and just watch out because sometimes it's centered in there like that. Sometimes it's set to be horizontal, so it looks a bit naff when it's like that. BS 308 is above, I believe, and aligned with the dimension line. Okay, when you set it to be above and align with it, then there's an offset from dim line. So this is how high the text is above the dimension line. That makes about 1 mil. So it's a mil above the text, above the line, just sat above nicely. And then you've just seen me doing the text placement horizontal or aligned with. Okay, so that's on the text tab. On the fit tab, this is the interesting one. This is one that people sort of tend to ignore. Right. Now, The only thing I'm going to look at here is this area where it says scale for dimension features. Scale for dimension features. Now, this is all the features. Your arrowheads, your text, your dim gap, text vertical position, the whole lot. And there are masses of settings in dimensions. That's half the problem. There's masses of settings. So what are the options? Well, if you've got one viewport on your drawing and you're going to dimension up in that viewport, you can set the overall scale of your dimensions in here, look. So this will scale up. If your viewport's going to be 1 to 50, you type in 50 in that box. If your viewport's going to be 1 to 5, you type in 5 in that box there. Okay. If you're going to dimension up on your on-paper space, in your sheet of paper, you set a dim scale of 1. So what that is doing, it is taking all of the dimension features and scaling them all up or all down accordingly. So if I have the floor plan of a building and it's 1 to 50, the viewport, in that box, I type in 50 in there, and it makes my arrowheads 50 times bigger. So when I print it out, I can see them in my viewport in model space at 1 to 50. Okay. Or if it's on the model, if it's in paper space, a scale of 1. Okay. That sets that variable called dim scale. It sets a variable in the system called dim scale. Right. This other option here, scale dimensions to layout. Now that's not worded very well. That's not worded. That should really read on there. It should say scale the dimensions to the current viewport scale. So you are working through a viewport at 1 to 5. If that is ticked, it will make your dimensions 5 times bigger. So it does depend on you having the viewport scale set correct, and then ideally locked at that scale while you're doing dimensions. If you zoom in or out, it's going to change the height of your text, and it won't be right when you reset your viewport scale. Now that works, putting dimensions into a viewport, so you can have several viewports on a drawing, 1 to 5, 1 to 10, 1 to 20, and you can dimension up through the viewport and it will scale everything accordingly. That works great as long as those viewports are looking at distinctly separate areas of the drawing, of your model space. If the 1 to 5 viewport is looking at the same area of the drawing as the 1 to 50 viewport, you'll see both dimensions. You'll see some big dimensions from the 1 to 50 viewport and your small dimensions 1 to 5. So it won't work if the viewports are looking at the same area of the drawing. Okay, so what's the next option then? The next option is to make your dimensions annotative. Okay, so they will appear correct in the 1 to 5 viewport and they will appear correct in the 1 to 50 viewport, even if they are looking at the same area. I'm going to show you that. Okay, right. So I'm just going to make this one a scale of 1 to 50 for now. 1 to 50. Okay, so that's the fit tab. I don't tend to change anything else on here unless I really need to. The defaults seem to be okay. The fit options seem to be okay. The text placement options seem to be okay, and so on. It's just things like if it can't fit the text in between the arrows, what does it do with it? Does it still put it in the middle there, overwriting, or does it move to outside? What does it do? Right, primary units. Typically you're working in decimal. You can set the precision of the display there. So a couple of decimal places there, or is it an architectural type drawing to 0 decimal places? Okay, so you can tweak and change that in there, the number of decimal places. And then the decimal separator, if you have got it in there, following BS 308 drawing standard nowadays, it should be a comma. So it should be so-and-so, comma, so-and-so, following the BS standard 308. Suffixes and prefixes in there, look, you can put those in. And then you can suppress trailing zeros. I don't like suppressing the zeros because if I want to set 2 decimal places, I want to see those 2 decimal places and all my dimensions. Never mind knocking off the trailing zeros, but it's entirely up to you. So that's your linear dimensions in that panel, in that section there, and your angular dimensions in this section here. Okay, So that's your primary units. You can turn on alternate units, and that's what I did with that dimension style where it shows the feet and inches. So you can turn in your feet and inches there and have those turned on as architectural units. So feet and inches, you can have it as engineering units. So that shows you like tenths of an inch or tenths and thousands of an inch, and so on. Not many people use those. We have got some customers who do work for the States, or if you're working on a building, for example, that was built with 10-foot bay centers, so you can have it showing us the bay centers are 10 foot, but you're working with imperial and metric sizes in there. So yes, you can turn them on. And then tolerancing. This is where you set up tolerances. So this is typically for an engineering component. Your tolerance methods are showing here, look. No tolerancing, symmetrical tolerancing, so the plus and minus value is the same. And you can set the precision of the tolerance. Now, if you set the precision of the tolerance to 2 decimal places, then the tolerance value can only be 2 decimal places. So watch out for that, because otherwise it'll chop the tolerance value down. So if I say the tolerance is 0.001 on the upper and lower value, because that's a symmetrical tolerance on that one there, look. So the upper and lower is 0.001. If it's set to deviation, then the plus and minus can be different, 0.02. So 0.001 upper limit, 0.02 the lower limit, and then you've got the scale. Sorry, you've got the scale for the height. That's this. I didn't press that. What's it doing at before? Okay. What's it hung up on now? Oh, great. Right. Okay. So yeah, see, that's what it's done there. Typical. Right. So that was in the Dimension Style Manager. Should go back to where I was, looking at the dual one there. No, I won't. Single, modify, go back to my tolerances. If I set it to deviation, so we can adjust the plus and minus, and then you've got limits, and in the limits it puts the actual value on the dimension values themselves. And again, from my colleagues, I can't remember where you'd use the different types of tolerance in there. You got the value for the scaling for the height. So this is the height of the actual text for the tolerances. So I've got like a height of the dimension value itself, and I typically put the tolerance value at half the height of the main value. So 0.5 in there for the height of the tolerance behind it. Okay. What else is in there? Tolerance, align operational symbols. So nothing much in there. Again, you can do suppression of trailing zeros, which, as I said before, I don't like. So yes, there's various things you can tick in there to set those. So that's setting up styles. That's setting up styles. So let me close that. Close that. So when you are working, you need to make sure that you're on the dimension layer, and then if I want to go and add in another dimension, so annotate, set your dimension style. Notice if I click that, and then this one is what they call it, an annotative style. And if I say do a linear dimension from this corner here to this corner here and place it there, look, and it puts it in 1713, 5 foot 7.5. So that was using the dual dims one. If I change the dimension style to the single, add another linear dimension in between there and zoom in to there, and that's that one there. Okay, so once the style's set up, they're there, nice and easy to use. I'm going to go and jump to the drawing file here to show you adding dimensions in this drawing here. Okay, so dimension up in paper space. Sorry, model space. Model space first. Look at dimension up in model space first. Now, ideally, you set the what are the styles in here? I've got one in here called linear aligned. So I'm going to go to a viewport. Here we go. I'm going to set my viewport scale up. Oops, 1 to 13 here. Set a viewport scale and lock it. Don't forget to lock your viewports. Now, I'm going to use a style which is set to be annotative. So in other words, it's going to pick up on the scale of the viewport. So let's just go and check in my dimension style manager. You can see I have a dimension style there called linear aligned. And you can see the propeller symbol there is making it annotative. So if I close that, viewport is locked. And if I'll nip back in again and see what the settings are for that linear aligned, the modifying there. And notice in here, the text height on the text panel, the text height is set to 3. But on my fit tab, it's set to be annotative. So it will automatically scale the text up to fit the viewport. Okay, so the viewport is locked. I can zoom in. The viewport is locked. And if I say place a linear dimension from the corner there to the corner there, I'm going to change the dimension style in a minute. Didn't mean to use that one. Let me just change this dimension style. I was meaning to use linear aligned. That's better. Set that as the current style. Now I've got one dimension style in there and one dimension in there already. What should I do here? These dimensions have multi-function grips on them. They have multi-function grips. And if you pick on the dimension, it shows those grips. And if you hover over them, I can say continue dimensioning from that point and work across the rest of those corners there, look. So I said continue dimensioning from that corner and place those dimensions on. Okay. And the same with the other way. Hover over the grip, hover, and just continue out the other way. Place the dimensions in there, look. Come down to here. Place them down here. Cross the window there, corner of the building. There you go. And it places them all nicely lined across there. Now, that's set to print out 3 or 4 mil across. That is a chain dimension or linear dimension across the screen. Okay. Right, now I'm also going to put some baseline dimensions in here as well. So you need to have an initial dimension on there already. So there's the initial dimension gone in. And again, using those multi-function grips, if I select the dimension, I'm going to work from a baseline on the left-hand side there. Baseline dimension, go across the doorway, across the corner of the building there, look, pop it in there, full of escapes, and it puts those into a baseline. So using those multi-function grips again, I was able to just stack them in from that end of the wall there. Now this text here is going to be close to the dimension line there. But again, it's got a multi-function grip there over the text. Watch, if I hover over it, lots of options in there. Look, stretch, move with dim line, move text only, all sorts of options. I'm going to say move with leader. Maybe not the best one, but at least I can pop it in like that, look. Okay. And then on this other side here, I'm going to use a tool called Quick Dim. There it is, look, Quick Dim. Watch how this one works. I pick onto Quick Dim and pick 1, 2, 3, pick those outside lines. So I've picked the objects which need dimensioning. Press the Enter key and place a dimension line. How easy was that? Pick the objects, press the Enter key and place a dimension line. Now, these dimensions are annotative. Okay. Now I have a viewport here at 1 to 5 and a viewport here at 1 to 1. And they are looking at that window I think it's that one there. Yes, it is, look. It's picking it out. Those viewports are looking at this window here. Okay. Now, what should I do here? I'm going to place the dimension across this window in this viewport here, in the main viewport. So I'm in this viewport here. Let me just do a zoom and a pan. That's a bit better. I'm going to place a dimension, a linear dimension, from this corner here to this corner here, and place my dimension about there. That will print out about 3 mil high on the printed sheet. Okay, but it doesn't appear in this one because it is set to be annotative. Notice neither of these propeller symbols are lit up. They are the dangerous buttons. Don't click those buttons unless you know what they do and how to use them. So wherever you are, model space, paper space, in a viewport, or model on the model tab, don't click those buttons unless you know what they do, because they can trash your drawing. Now, this dimension here, I want it to appear in this viewport here. So I can click this dimension or multiple dimensions, do a right click, and up the top there, look, add in a new scale. I'm just going to go and check again what that viewport scale is. Viewport is 1 to 5. So I want that dimension to appear when the viewport is a scale of 1 to 5. So add object scale, add delete scales, add in a scale of 1 to 5. When I do an OK and an OK, it'll appear in this one as well. But look, it's gone off the edge of the viewport, so it's not much use, is it? However, what I can do is I can go to this viewport here, unlock it temporarily, pan across, and there it is, look. Notice the height of the text. It will print out that 3 mil high. Now, if I pick this dimension here, you can see it's selecting both viewports, and it's also showing the other annotation scale there. Now, if I hover over the text and say move with dim line, I can move this one closer to the object. There we go. Now I press the escape key to clear the selection. You can see how I have been able to position the dimension in this viewport separately to the dimension in this viewport. So it works in both viewports. Okay. So if I relock that viewport at 1 to 5, and the viewport is locked, therefore I can zoom in. Now in this viewport, you can say I have a viewport at 1 to 1 up there, look. In this viewport here, this one here, I can say I want to put a dimension across the frame. So linear, across the frame from there to there, and place my dimension just there. I'm going to move my dimension to one side, the text, move with leader, and place across like that. Okay, and notice it doesn't appear in this other viewport where I'm zoomed in on the frame, because this dimension of 120 has been told to appear only when the viewport hits 1 to 5. If I want to appear in the other one, I can do a right click, additive scale, just like I did before, and say show yourself when the viewport is 1 to 1. Okay on that, okay on that, and there it is. And there it is, look. But again, it's gone off the edge of the viewport. So like I did before, I can unlock it, and I can go and pick onto this dimension here, hover over the grip, and say reset the text position, which the default for text is in the middle there, look. And I can say move with dim line, move it up to there, reset my viewport to where it was, press the escape key, and there's the dimension in that viewport. And in this viewport, I can say add another linear dimension from there to there, and place, that's the glazing, that's the double glazed unit panel at the size there, look. And I can place one at the side as well, from there to there, and place it there. So the viewport is controlling whether those dimensions appear or not. Okay, so that's a 1 to 1 viewport. This is a 1 to 5 viewport. So if I change this 1 to 1 viewport to a viewport scale of 1 to 2, what do you think is going to happen to the dimensions? Yep, I can hear you all screaming out, well, they should disappear. Let's try it. So if I change that top viewport to a scale of 1 to 2, sure enough, they disappear because those dimensions have been told to appear when the viewport is 1 to 1. Anything else, turn yourself off. So if I go back to 1 to 1 in that viewport, there they are. So there's my 1 to 1 view dimensions. There are my 1 to 5 view dimensions, and so on. Yeah, go back to 1 to 1 in that viewport and lock it. There we go. Now, when I was picking the dimensions individually there, you can pick a whole batch of dimensions and say, make these appear at a different scale. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my main viewport. I'm going to unlock it, centralize it in the view, and watch what happens here. I'm at 1 to 30 there, and there's my 1 to 30 dimensions, which will appear when the viewport is 1 to 30 and print out 3 mil high. If I set that viewport to 1 to 5, there's my 1 to 5 viewport, my dimensions. If I set my viewport to 1 to 1, there's my 1 to 1 dimensions. Does that all make sense there? So 1 to 5, there they are, and 1 to 30, and there they are. So the viewport is controlling what appears on the screen. Now I could pick onto one of these, look, and do a right click, select similar. I've picked all my dimensions there, look, and do a right click, additive scales, add delete scales to all dimensions at once. Say add in 1 to 50 as well. OK on that, 1 to 50, and OK on that. So there's my 1 to 30 dimensions. If I say 1 to 50, there's my 1 to 50 dimensions. So you can add those annotation scales to the dimensions, multiple dimensions. Right, 1 to 30, that's what I print out at, and lock it. Right, so the viewports are controlling when the objects appear. On the Model tab, we don't have any viewports, do we? So what's going to happen on the Model tab? When we go to the Model tab, what's going to happen to our dimensions? Good question. So let's have a look. Let's go to the Model tab, and don't forget about these propeller symbols down here. I've said keep those turned off. They are the killers. They will destroy your drawing if you got them ticked at the wrong time. So here we go. Go into the Model tab, and nothing there. Because my viewport scale, I don't have any viewports, but down here, look, this scale down here is not a viewport scale anymore. This is an annotation scale. Now, as I said before, make sure none of these propeller symbols are lit up. Okay, so this now is not a viewport scale anymore. This is an annotation scale. So if I say, show me my 1 to 50 dimensions, there they are. Show me my 1 to 30 dimensions, there they are. Show me my 1 to 1 dimensions, and there they are. Okay, now let's just click one of these buttons and see what shows up. Holy moly, what's all that there? You know, it's got all sorts showing, multiple dimension scales showing, and it looks a mess. Okay, I've got big dimensions, small dimensions in there. Oops, 1 to 30. Yeah, and the changing size on the screen look as well, and it makes you wonder what's going on. So it's because this button's lit up down here. So I keep repeating myself here. None of those buttons are lit up. So here we go, look. There are my 1 to 5 dimensions. The scale button on there is 1 to 5. So I could zoom into here. Now, if I want to see some more 1 to 5 dimensions in my viewport, I simply say, okay, do a linear dimension from there to there, place dimension just there, look. I'll click on it, and I'll move the text by itself, move text only, place my text just there, look. Okay, so that looks okay there. Press the escape key. I go back to my layout tab. That appears in my 1 to 5 viewport there, look. back on the model tab. If I zoom out and say, show me my 1 to 50 dimensions, there they are. So if I add a linear dimension from there, just right click perpendicular to there, there's a linear dimension at 1 to 50. Now that viewport was 1 to 30, so it won't appear actually, will it? So it won't appear. Okay. So pick my dimension, right click, scales, add in 1 to 30. Okay on that. Okay on that. Back to the ISO A0, and there it is. Okay. Right. How are we doing for time? Blimey. Right. Quickly, show you some tools on dimensions. The ISO A2 tab here. So you know how to set up styles. Let's quickly show this. Copy this viewport across to here. Copy it across to there. Look. Now go into this viewport, double click. Set this viewport scale to 1 to 1. Okay, and padlock it. Right. Now look at your line types. Somebody screwed up on the line types in this drawing file. I press the regen key there. Just the hidden lines show correctly. The center lines have been messed up. But I'm going to set it. I'm going to pop in some linear dimensions in here on the dimensions tab, dimensions layer rather. Annotate. It's an annotative dimension style. And I put something across like this. Put one there. Look. I'm just pressing the enter key to repeat the last command. Enter key to repeat the last command to place these dimensions. Probably not the best way of dimensioning it up, but it's popping them in. So I'm going to show you some functionality on these dimensions here. So I'll pop those in. Look, they haven't been spaced very well. So the tool on the dimensions panel up the top there called dim space. That's the command, is dim space. If I say space those dimensions off, that's the base dimension there. Click and space the rest of them to match. And there we go. It spaced them all nicely. Now, when you are dimensioning up on a model, if I just add a linear one from there to there, place a linear one there, look. And if I pick and add an aligned one on this sloping line here, out to say there, and then I add in an arc length on this arc here, out to there, and put in another linear one and line on the other side there, onto there. Okay. I mean, dimensions are pretty straightforward. Put an angular one in from there to there. There's an angular dimension going in there, look. And then if I put some radius ones, I put a radius onto, whoops, a radius onto that. I'll put a radius onto that. And now I'll put in a diameter onto that, and a diameter onto that. Now, BS 308 states that when you draw over your object, you should be breaking your dimension line there, so to make your drawing more readable. So the tool called dim break, and there it is, just next to the dim adjust. So break the dimension. There are multiple dimensions to break. So I select all my dimensions in the drawing file, press the enter key, and it says what's breaking your dimension on the command line. Read the command line, and well, there's lots of things breaking them. So I use the auto function there, and it breaks the dimensions where they cross over, look. And it makes your drawing more readable when you print it out. Yeah. Okay. So that's tied in the drawing file up there with some of those dimension tools. Now again, go into the model tab, turn that off there, and there are my one-to-one dimensions. If I go to any other dimension scale, they're not showing, look. Now if I want to add them in for a different dimension scale, watch. I'll show you what these buttons do. This button here will add all the scales to all the objects when the dimension scale changes. Now watch. If I pick that button there, or have it accidentally lit up, and I pick on the pull down list and start messing around with these scales, watch. In a second, I can trash the drawing. With 2 clicks, I've trashed the drawing. Now, if this drawing landed on somebody else's desk and they open the drawing and it looked like that, and they don't know about annotative objects, I can guarantee you what they will do. They will just erase your dimensions. If they don't know how these additive objects work, then they will trash your dimensions. And essentially what's happened there is it has added in to those dimensions an annotation scale of 1 to 100 because that button there was highlighted. That button there was highlighted. Okay, so watch out for that. If I go back to the 1-to-1 dimensions, there they are. So if I would need to start removing annotation scales from the dimensions there. Right, last little thing before I finish, because time's running away with me again, is placing geometric. Oh, sorry, I'm transferring from drawing to drawing. Transferring. Yes. So if I go to a different drawing, and I want to pull in the dimension styles from that bearing dimensions M drawing to pull dimension styles from drawing to drawing, then use a tool called Design Center. So View tab on the ribbon, and there it is, Palettes panel, and there's my Design Center button, or it's the letters DC, the letters DC. So my current drawing is one called Dimension Plan AM, and there's the bearing dimensions drawing. Now in the bearing dimensions M drawing, if I begin to dim styles, you can see I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's way too many. In fact, let me just purge some out. So in this dimension style, in here, I'm going to purge some out. PU. Get rid of dimension styles I don't need. I'm going to say purge all, close. Right, let's see now in this current drawing, in the bearing dimensions M drawing, dim style, I've got one dimension style, the one which is being used, okay, in the bearing dimensions M drawing. So to get a different dimension style into this current drawing, there's the other dimension styles in the other drawing. I can pick as many as I want. I just drag from Design Center and drop them into my current drawing. There we go. So when I close this, well, in fact, I looked at it there. Dim styles, there they are in my current drawing. If I close that, go to the Annotate tab, Dimensions styles, and they're all in there. Look, it's pulled them all across. Right, last little thing before I wrap up. Dimensions, Annotate tab on the ribbon, Dimensions panel. If you pull it down on the screen, in the corner there is the tool to create these geometrical tolerancing feature control frames. And it shows you an example there of angularity. So it's an angular tolerance between that datum face A, it's been labeled up, look, and that face there. It's got the angular symbol on, and the angular tolerance is 0.1 in there, and it shows that the datum is datum A. Okay, so I click onto this, and there it is, look. In fact, let's try and do this one. So it's that tolerance there, look. The tolerance is it's 0.1, okay, and it's not a diameter. Material condition, maximum material condition, and the datum is datum A, okay. And there's other things in here as well. I mean, I can't remember what they all do nowadays. The tolerancing, my tolerancing is way back in my college days. Datum identifier A. Height, I'm going to make it 3 mil. Let's see if this works. Enter tolerance location. There it is. So set the control frame up there. Tells it the datum A, and then you put a leader on pointing this bottom face here. But that's geometrical tolerancing. Not many people do those, but be aware it's in there. I'd have to read up on it all to get all the full ins and outs of it all, but it is in there. There we go. So it's nearly 1 o'clock. So if you have any questions, this has been recorded. I might redo the recording because I cocked up when I first started. I didn't have my screen showing, did I? And I don't do enough webinars to remember all the things to tick this box and tick that box. But anyway, so yes, if you have any questions or queries, just put some text in here. Just my email address is steve.crow@greytech.co.uk. So that's me. If you have any questions or queries, drop me an email, and I can spend some time giving you a considered answer. That's why I don't have these. I've got no time to answer your questions now. So yeah, drop me an email across, and I'll go through it all. Any problem drawings, and I mean, if you want us to come in and set up dimension styles with dimensional tolerancing or geometrical tolerancing, we can set up tool palettes with symbols, libraries, and so on for you. Set up some CAD standards in your office. It's a service we offer to come along and help you set those up. And there we go. Look, it's nearly finished there. Brilliant. Okay, thanks, guys. Have a good day. And any questions or queries, just drop me an email and get logged on our website to see the recording. I'll do a bit better next time. Have a good day. Cheers now.